In the glowing lantern light of Edo's night markets, the chime of golden Koban coins echoed through silk shops, tea houses, and sack stalls. A small oval of gold could buy months of a farmer's labour, or a single evening of music and geisha laughter. In a world where silver and copper fed the body, but gold fed pride, the Koban was more than currency. It was power shaped by fire and authority. Yet what could one Koban truly buy in medieval Japan? The Koban was born during the Edo period, under the strict hierarchy of the Tokugawa shogunate. It was not just a coin, it was a declaration of control, a stamped promise from the ruling house that order and value were maintained. Oval in shape, about the size of a man's palm and made from nearly pure gold, each Koban carried the engraved seal of the Tokugawa family, a crest that glimmered with authority. Goldsmiths in Edo and Kyoto crafted these coins by hand, heating, hammering, and weighing each piece with almost ceremonial care. To hold one was to hold the state's confidence itself. The Koban, equivalent to one ryo, stood at the heart of Japan's feudal economy. Beneath the shogunate system of rice-based taxation, it represented both wealth and stability, an anchor in a world ruled by rice, duty, and hierarchy. For the samurai, whose stipends were calculated in ryo, the Koban symbolized not trade but status. For merchants, it was a golden bridge to influence in a society that claimed to despise commerce yet depended on it. And for the commoner, the Koban belonged to a different world, one glimpsed only in tax collections, noble processions, or stories whispered by candlelight about fortunes made and lost in the flicker of gold. To understand the worth of a Koban is to understand the delicate balance between gold, rice, and human labour in Edo, Japan. One Koban, equal to a single ryo, could be exchanged for tens of thousands of copper coins, so many that a farmer might need a cart just to carry them. For a peasant, it represented the wages of 4 to 6 months of toil under the sun. It could feed a family through the winter, or purchase enough rice to fill dozens of barrels. In a society where rice was the foundation of life and currency, a Koban could buy about 150 kilograms of it, enough to sustain a small community for weeks. Merchants in Osaka's bustling Dotonbori and Edo's Nihonbashi used Koban for large-scale trade, shipments of silk, sake, and porcelain. Samurai received their yearly stipends in ryo, not copper coins, creating a gap so wide that gold became both a symbol and a barrier. In the back rooms of the counting houses, Koban coins slid across polished wooden tables as quiet negotiations decided the flow of wealth across provinces. Yet for the townspeople, these coins were almost mythical. Many would never touch one in their entire lives, only seeing its gleam when paying taxes to their lord, or hearing it jingle on the belt of a passing official. The Koban was not just money, it was aspiration condensed into gold. To dream of it was to dream of escape from one's station, even if such a dream was forbidden. A single Koban could open doors that most people would never approach in their lifetimes. With one golden coin, a samurai could purchase a finely crafted light armor set, lacquered, elegant, and durable enough for parade or minor skirmish. A merchant might trade it for a luxurious silk kimono woven in Kyoto, dyed in deep indigo or saffron tones, stitched by hands that served the nobility. In the right district of Edo, a Koban could also buy a sturdy horse or a well-forged katana, each carrying the same weight of prestige. For the city's elite, one night at an upscale tea house could consume an entire Koban, sake poured endlessly, shamisen strings trembling, and geisha performing under paper lanterns. Further from the city, in the quiet outskirts, 2 or 3 Koban might purchase a small wooden house, humble but entirely one's own. For artisans or low-ranking samurai, this was the dream of permanence, a place untouched by rent or feudal taxes. Every transaction involving a Koban carried a sense of gravity. It wasn't merely an exchange, it was a statement of position. The weight of the coin reminded the buyer of what they had achieved, and the seller of what they could never yet afford. Gold shone brightest in a world divided by rank, where every coin was both promise and reminder that value was measured not only by what it could buy, but by who was allowed to spend it. To hold a Koban was to hold proof of belonging to a higher world. For the samurai, the coin's gold shimmer mirrored the ideals of loyalty and integrity, virtues that were meant to be as pure as the metal itself. Their stipends, paid in ryo, affirmed their service to the shogun and reinforced the social pyramid that kept the nation's order intact. Merchants, though officially ranked below samurai, quietly wielded the Koban as their weapon. With every coin they bought influence, land, and indulgence. Behind the curtains of Edo's wealth, gold spoke louder than swords. Yet in public, merchants still bowed deeply, hiding their prosperity behind modest robes, because gold could purchase comfort, but never erase one's birth rank. For peasants and labourers, the Koban remained almost mythical, a symbol of a world unreachable. Taxes were collected in rice, and the golden coins of their lords were glimpsed only from afar, glinting under torchlight as offerings were carried into castle gates. In Japanese culture, wealth was inseparable from honour. A man who lost his fortune was pitied, but one who lost his dignity was condemned. Thus, the Koban was more than treasure. It was a mirror reflecting both virtue and vanity. To display it carelessly was arrogance, to earn it rightfully was pride. Every coin bore the Tokugawa seal, but within its shine lay countless unseen hands, the miners, smiths, and traders who turned the soil's dust into a symbol of status. The Koban was not merely minted gold, it was the distilled hierarchy of an entire civilization. Beyond its domestic prestige, the Koban became a quiet ambassador of Japan's wealth to the outside world. During the Edo period's Sokoku, or closed country policy, foreign trade was heavily restricted, yet the Koban still crossed oceans through controlled exchanges with Dutch, Chinese, and Korean merchants. Its remarkable gold purity made it a coveted currency even among those who rarely dealt in Japanese goods. In Nagasaki's Dejima port, the only gateway to the outside world, Koban coins shimmered under the hands of foreign traders. The Dutch East India Company often accepted Koban in place of silver, valuing its consistency more than any European coin. Chinese merchants, too, prized it as a stable medium of exchange for silk, tea, and porcelain, often melting the coins to reuse their gold in trade bars. To Japanese diplomats and daimyos, gifting Koban carried diplomatic weight. A pouch of gold coins could symbolize peace, respect, or allegiance, depending on who received it. The coin's oval shape and engraved Tokugawa seal were instantly recognizable, serving as a golden signature of the shogunate's authority. Some nobles were even buried with Koban in their coffins, a tribute to earthly success and a wish for prosperity in the afterlife. In this sense, the Koban transcended trade and became almost spiritual, a relic of wealth that spoke a universal language of power. It was Japan's unspoken emissary, gleaming proof that even in isolation the nation's gold held the world's attention. Every Koban began its life in fire. Artisans in Edo, Kyoto, and Sado Island worked with quiet precision, melting raw gold into small ingots before hammering them into the iconic oval form. No machine could replicate their process. It was an act of devotion as much as craft. The air around their forges shimmered with heat and discipline, each strike of the hammer guided by years of inherited skill. After shaping came engraving. The shogunate's seal, 3 hollyhock leaves within a circle, was pressed onto the surface, turning metal into authority. These engravers were sworn to secrecy, their work monitored by inspectors to ensure not a grain of gold was lost. Even the polishing cloths were weighed before and after use. But beyond its economic role, the Koban became an object of beauty. Goldsmiths designed ornate cases of silk, lacquer, and leather to store them, while noble families commissioned small wooden boxes lined with brocade to present them as gifts. Some Koban were never spent at all, kept as heirlooms to be passed down through generations, like living fragments of the Tokugawa era itself. To the craftsman, a Koban was not just a coin, it was the embodiment of harmony between precision and soul. Each curve, each shimmer told a story of discipline and pride. When the light struck its surface, it did more than reflect gold. It reflected the hands, sweat, and centuries of artistry that gave form to Japan's golden age. In Edo, Japan, the gleam of a Koban was a light seen from afar by most. For the wealthy, samurai, merchants, and aristocrats, it was a familiar sight, sliding across lacquered tables in deals and stipends. But for commoners, it remained a dream shimmering just out of reach, its value spoken of in hushed awe. The gap between classes was defined not just by birth, but by the kind of metal one touched. Farmers and craftsmen dealt in copper and iron, the middle class in silver, and only the elite in gold. A single Koban could equal a poor man's yearly income. If one fell to the ground in a crowded street, chaos would erupt, people diving to the dirt, risking punishment for even brushing against it. Gold separated the worlds of luxury and survival. In the pleasure districts, samurai and merchants spent Koban freely on sake and silk. while outside the walls, mothers stretched handfuls of rice to feed their children. Yet there was no hatred, only acceptance shaped by centuries of hierarchy. The peasant's role was to endure, the nobles to command, and gold's to remain untouchable. To hold a Koban was to hold distance itself. It represented everything a commoner was told not to desire, but secretly longed for: choice, comfort, and dignity. In a society where movement between classes was nearly impossible, the Koban glimmered as both temptation and warning, a silent proof that even beauty in gold could enforce obedience. The Koban's value, like the tides of Edo Bay, rose and fell with time. At its height in the 17th century, a single Koban could purchase 50 kilograms of rice, enough to feed a family for months. It could buy a servant's loyalty for a season, or a craftsman's labour for half a year. But as decades passed, inflation crept quietly through the empire. Wars, disasters, and the lavish spending of daimyos strained the economy. The shogunate responded by reducing the coin's gold content, replacing purity with promise. Each new issue of Koban looked the same but weighed slightly less, its shine hiding the nation's weakening pulse. Merchants learned to test their coins by sound, listening for the difference between truth and deceit. By the late Edo period, the Koban had become both symbol and illusion. Its worth was no longer measured by gold alone, but by trust in a system that could crumble at any moment. People hoarded older Koban, treating them as relics of an age when honor still backed the coin. Yet despite these changes, the Koban never lost its aura. It lived on in poems, songs, and idioms. Koban for cats, the saying went, describing a treasure wasted on those who couldn't appreciate it. Even as the Meiji era dawned and modern money replaced gold ovals, the Koban remained etched in Japan's memory as the purest reflection of Edo's fragile brilliance. Beautiful, valuable, and destined to fade. In the theatres of Edo, the Koban was more than a prop. It was a symbol of fate. In kabuki plays, it glittered between lovers, betrayed friends, or sealed a samurai's downfall. Its presence could turn comedy into tragedy, just as gold in real life turned loyalty into temptation. Audiences recognized the sound of coins falling as a cue for moral conflict, for in every clink of metal there echoed the question, what is a man worth? In popular tales, the Koban became myth. Stories of Nezumi Kozo, the rat thief who stole Koban from the rich to give to the poor, reflected the people's hunger for justice in a rigid world. In woodblock prints, golden ovals tumbled from the heavens, raining down on fools and merchants alike, part joke, part wishful dream. Superstition surrounded the coin as well. Some believed that placing a Koban under one's pillow would bring luck and wealth. Others said it lured greedy spirits. During New Year festivities, paper replicas of Koban were hung in homes to invite fortune, shimmering under candlelight like echoes of lost prosperity. The Koban transcended currency. It became narrative. It was a mirror for human desire, greed, and hope, its golden shine flickering through the collective imagination of a nation. To dream of Koban was to dream of a better life, even if only within the safety of a story. The Koban, though small and silent, carried the weight of an entire era's ideals. It was minted from gold, but also from obedience, labour, and longing. To the shogun, it represented stability. To the merchant, ambition. To the peasant, distance. Within its smooth oval form lay the paradox of Edo Japan, a society bound by order, yet forever yearning for more. Every exchange of a Koban was a performance of class and restraint. To pay with it meant privilege, to dream of it meant hope. Its value was measured not only in gold but in the countless lives that revolved around it. The miners digging in distant mountains, the smiths hammering under firelight, the farmers whose rice defined its worth. When the Tokugawa shogunate fell and modern coins replaced the Koban, the golden ovals disappeared from daily life but not from memory. They lived on in art, literature, and idiom, symbols of an age when honour and hierarchy gleamed as brightly as gold. Today, a Koban sits behind museum glass, its surface dulled by centuries yet radiant with meaning. It whispers of a time when every coin carried a soul, when currency was more than economy, it was belief. And as the light shifts across its face, one can almost hear the faint echo of Edo's lantern markets, where gold once sang, not for wealth alone, but for the fragile beauty of human desire.